NASCAR is not expected to ban wall riding, and Joe Gibbs says that they tried to keep Kyle Busch for 2023. What's going, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We've got some NASCAR and other motorsports stories discussed here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into those really quickly. We're going to start our paint schemes and sponsorship news first. Let's jump into those really quickly. The first paint scheme we're taking a look at is Alex Abay's 2022 NRS brace scheme that will be seen this weekend at Phoenix. Honestly, paint scheme looks really good in my opinion. I like the black touch on it. It looks very solid, and I'm looking forward to seeing on the racetrack this weekend at Phoenix. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Stephen Parsons' MMF scheme that are going to be seen this weekend at Phoenix. My favorite thing about this car is the blue. It looks very simplistic, but it looks very colorful. Excited to see on the racetrack this weekend at Phoenix. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Zane Smith's 2022 MRC Remembering Great Men scheme that are going to be seen this weekend at Phoenix. Very solid looking truck in my opinion. I love the Michael Racing Construction. Roberts Construction is changing up the scheme for the weekend. Excited to see it on the racetrack. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Jack Wood's 2022 Quick Quack Car Wash scheme. They're going to be seen this weekend at Phoenix in the Truck Series. Could potentially be the final race for Jack Wood with GMS as well, by the way. This actually looks really solid. I love the green. I love the white. Everything about this looks awesome, and I'm excited to see it on the racetrack. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Tyler Hill's 2020 gmercer.com scheme that will be seen this weekend at Phoenix. I like this paint scheme a lot. Love the colors on it, and it's an exciting looking paint scheme. Excited to see it on the racetrack. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Chris Rice's 2022 Big Dog Energy scheme. They're going to be seen this weekend in the Xfinity Series race at Phoenix. Big Dog Energy sponsored Chris Wright a lot this year, and I have to say that they've done a really good job with the paint schemes they've had for Chris. This one's no exception. Looks very similar to his 44 car and what other cars he's ran. It looks pretty good. Excited to see it on the racetrack this weekend. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Nick Sanchez's 2022 On This Day clothing scheme. They're going to be seen this weekend at Phoenix. Love the scheme, in my opinion. Love the black, like the red. Everything about this looks absolutely incredible, and I'm excited to see it on the racetrack. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Kaz Grall's 2022 Rude Busch Toyota scheme. They're going to be seen this weekend in the Xfinity Series race at Phoenix. I absolutely love this paint scheme. Probably my favorite paint scheme of all the paint schemes that have been revealed in the last couple of days. Awesome that Kaz Grall is back behind the wheel. Excited to see it on the racetrack this weekend at Phoenix. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is J.J. Yeley's 2022 Tri-Edge Now scheme. They're going to be seen this weekend at Phoenix. Decent paint scheme, in my opinion. Probably my least favorite paint schemes just because there's a little bit too much going on with it. But I'm hoping J.J. Yeley can have a good run in this car. And the final paint scheme we're taking a look at is Landon Castle's 2022 Muto General Formulation scheme. They're going to be seen this weekend at Phoenix. This one's a little bit different than what we've seen in the past. I think it's generally been like a black and yellow color. I love it. They're changing up to be like a blue and black color. I think this actually looks amazing. Looks absolutely incredible. And I'm definitely looking forward to see on the racetrack this weekend at Phoenix. And now we're going to head jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Phoenix purse money for this weekend. Of course, every single week around Tuesday or Wednesday, Bob Pocker shows all the purse money that you're going to see. So for the Cup Series, this is the largest purse, I believe, of the season with $10,542,284. For the Xfinity Series, it's $1,645,625. And for the Truck Series, it's $817,025. Solid purse money, really good purse money for the Cup Series, but that is, of course, all the end of the year money that they get, along with all the charter purse as well. Xfinity's pretty good as well, and Trucks is decent, but not fantastic, and that could be a little bit higher. But that is your purse money for this weekend. It's not too bad. It's very solid, and glad to see that is a purse money for this weekend. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Latasha Causey. As it was announced yesterday, Latasha Causey is going to be the new track president at Phoenix starting this week. Julie Geis, who's been the old track president for Phoenix, she'll be working at the Chicago Street Course and in the future at Chicagoland Speedway as well. Latasha Causey's been in the industry for a very long time, so I think she absolutely deserves this opportunity. I think it's a fantastic and great thing to see that she is getting a well-deserved opportunity, in my opinion. And congratulations to her on getting this opportunity to go out there and work. I think it's really exciting to see, and congratulations to her on getting an opportunity to work at Phoenix Raceway. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're unfortunately taking this episode to a little bit of a sour note, as unfortunately Mike Potter passed away a couple days ago on Halloween. Mike Potter's was a journeyman in NASCAR who basically also worked at JD Motorsports for a very, very long time, who's had a lot of industry excitement for many, many years, and unfortunately, like I said, he passed away. My prayers and condolences do go out to his family in a very, very sad and very tragic story. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about resin compound. Now, Bob Pock was reported on Monday afternoon the NASCAR will not treat turns 1 and 2. Now, turns 3 and 4 Phoenix is going to be treated, but the treatment will move 3 to 4 feet higher. One of the reasons why they're not treating turns 1 and 2 is because turns 1 and 2 was extremely dominant. If you watch a Cup Series race, you saw how extremely dominant turns 1 and 2 was. So they want to try to get rid of as much compound as well, so we can see better racing overall. I don't think resin is the worst thing in the world, but I think the resin made the top so dominant in the spring that I am a little bit nervous and a little worried that the racing may not be as good. Still, though, it's good to see that they're not treating turns 1 and 2 anymore, so that it won't be as dominant, and hopefully it will wear off so we can see a little bit more better racing in the future. Hopefully the racing will be good. We'll have to wait and see what happens. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about NTT Data. As it has been officially announced that NTT Data has officially signed with Arrow McLaren SP in a multi-year deal as a sponsor. NTT Data have been a sponsor for Chip Ganassi Racing, and of course the title sponsor for IndyCar, and now they're going to be moving over to work with Arrow McLaren SP. This is really, really great for Arrow McLaren SP to have a company like NTT Data. They will sponsor Felix Rosenqvist, I believe, in 10 races in the 6 car next year, so that's really exciting to see. Glad to see NTT Data is moving over to work with Arrow McLaren SP. That's one of the driving factors why Alex Palou was originally going to go to Arrow McLaren SP, was because NTT Data really wanted to go over and work with him. So that's really exciting news for sure that NTT Data will be moving over to work with Arrow McLaren SP in 2023. Really exciting news for sure. And now we're going to head jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Championship 4. Now, Joseph Strictly does all of his really cool, awesome facts that he pretty much does every single time, and he reports that the average age of the 4 drivers in the Cup Series Championship is a 28.5. That is the youngest top 4 ever in NASCAR Cup Series history since the points started, and the first time since 1950 that we've seen the average age of the final 4 drivers in top 4 points under the age of 30 years old, but this is the youngest championship 4. You've got 4 really talented drivers. Chase Elliott's already won a Cup Series championship. Logano's already won a Cup Series championship. And Cristobal and Ross Chastain, who are both looking for their first championships at a very young age. I think it still shows that the youth movement is still a really, really big thing. The Championship 4 will be very exciting this weekend, and we will determine a champion. Great to see that the Championship 4 is a very young Championship 4. Excited for the Championship 4 race as well this weekend at Phoenix. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about M&Ms. As it was reported by a couple reporters, including Dustin Albino, that the Toyota Camry pace car is going to be wrapped in M&M's branding at Phoenix this weekend. The reason M&M's will have the branding at Phoenix is because of the fact that this is the final race for M&M's in NASCAR, as they will be leaving after 30-plus years of contribution with the Mars Company. They will be leaving at the end of this season. I think this is a really cool gesture that Toyota Pace Car is going to be doing, and a really cool gesture. There's probably going to be a lot of M&M's branding this weekend, as like I said, this is the last race for M&M's in NASCAR for a very, very long time, and more than likely, they're probably not going to be coming back anytime soon. I think this is a really awesome and a great gesture to see, and very proud to see that M&M's will continue working. And basically, I know it's the end of it for them. It's really great to see that they are showing a lot of respect there, and it's really awesome to see for sure, in my opinion. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Bass Pro Shops. Now, it was announced yesterday, I think, at the Bass Pro Shops headquarters in Springfield, Missouri, that Bass Pro Shops has entered a multi-year partnership with Junior Motorsports. Bass Pro Shops has. They will sponsor 11 races with Josh Berry in 2022, and they also will sponsor for 20 with Carson Quaffle in the Cars Late Model Tour. They also are going to be sponsoring Dale Jr. in a throwback number 3 car at Florence Speedway in the South Carolina 400, and then the next week at Southern National Motorsports Park, they will sponsor Josh Berry as well. This is absolutely huge. Bass Pro Shops had a little bit of association with the Junior Motorsports brand. They're actually kind of doing a little bit of throwback to the 1988 Dale Earnhardt car, which I think is really exciting to see. This is a fantastic partnership for the team, for the brand. Very exciting to see for sure. And amazing at Bastard Shots is absolutely going to be, this is really exciting to see. A big deal for sure. We'll talk more about Dale Jr. here later in this episode, but it's amazing to see and incredible to see for sure that Bastard Shots has entered a multi-year partnership. Very exciting to see for sure. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Armani Williams. As Armani Williams is going to drive the 20 for Young's Motorsports this weekend at Phoenix. Armani Williams has been driving the 33 and 43 trucks this year. I believe this will be the first start for him that he's driven for Young's Motorsports this season. He'll be driving the 20. I believe the 20 truck, I think there's only 35 trucks entering, so he'll be able to make the show this weekend. The goal for Armani is to try to get as much experience as possible and get us some experience in the series. Great to see Armani back behind the wheel. Hopefully Armani will have a good run in this truck this weekend at Phoenix. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Johnny Sauter. As Johnny Sauter will drive the 02 for Young's Motorsports this weekend at Phoenix. Johnny Sauter, who's been part-time so far in 2022, who originally was going to drive for Glory to God Racing for 13 races, but basically backed out of that deal. He will now drive the 02 this weekend. I think there's a really big pickup for Young's Motorsports. I think they will have probably their best run they've had all year. I think Johnny Sauter is going to have a really good chance and a really good opportunity to get a top 10 this weekend. I think this is a fantastic decision that they brought Johnny Sauter on board. I think this is a big deal for the team and a really good decision to bring Johnny Sauter on. I expect big things this weekend for the team, and I think they're going to have a really good chance and a really good opportunity to be really competitive. Watch for that teams. I think Young's Motorsports will be a very big surprise this weekend at Phoenix. I think they're going to have a really good chance to get it done. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about IndyCar. Now, it was reported by Motorsports.com that Roger Penske says he wants more ovals on the IndyCar schedule. Now, this is not the first time that Roger Penske has said that he wants more ovals on the IndyCar schedule. He's been saying that over the last couple of years. But over the last few years, they haven't added any new ovals. Granted, they added Iowa back on the schedule. We've got 2 oval races next year. But the IndyCar schedule is very limited. One of the things I think IndyCar should honestly do if they're going to add more ovals is they need to have more races on the schedule. There has been conversations that Milwaukee in the not-so-distant future could get a race in the not-so-distant future. There's also talk of other tracks, maybe like Pocono, perhaps coming back, or even Homestead's been in conversations for the last years of maybe getting some race dates back in the not-so-distant future. But I think IndyCar really needs more ovals. I think the lack of ovals is really frustrating, and I think I understand that people probably will be frustrating me saying that, but there has been a lack of ovals, and personally, I think if you can add more ovals to the schedule, I think it will psych the schedule just a little bit more. People love oval racing. Iowa was fantastic racing for sure, and personally, I think we need to see more ovals on the schedule. That's my opinion, though, but I definitely think we need to see more ovals on the schedule in the future, as I think it will be better for the sport, and hopefully, we'll see more ovals in IndyCar in future schedules. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Ryan Vargas. As he revealed on Monday that he will not be returning to JD Motorsports in 2023 and also will not be racing this weekend at Phoenix. Ryan Vargas has been racing for JD Motorsports for the last 3 seasons, but unfortunately Ryan Vargas has not had a lot of great starts this year. And that's no disrespect to Ryan Vargas. I think Ryan Vargas is a very talented driver. Now, there have been some rumors and rumors he could go to Sam Hunt Racing in 2023, but I still think they're working on his plans for 2023. Ryan has done the best he can with that car, and I'll be honest, I don't think that car is the greatest car out there. Granted, Brendan Poole's done a pretty solid job on that ride, but I think Brendan Poole is a better driver than Ryan Vargas personally. But again, you have to remember that Brendan Poole has a lot more experience than Ryan Vargas. I'm hoping Ryan Vargas can have an opportunity to find somewhere to race next year. I think he deserves an opportunity being really good equipment. It'd be really cool to see him have that opportunity. I'm not sure if he will be in that car. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but it's unfortunate that Ryan Vargas will not be racing for JD Motorsports next year, but we'll see where he ends up driving next year. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Tony Kanaan. Along with the NTT data announcing of them going to Aaron McLaren SP, Tony Kanaan will be racing for Aaron McLaren SP officially in the 2023 Indianapolis 500. Now, this has been expected for a bit, but they kind of jumped the gun on this about a week ago. Motorsports.com did, but officially yesterday, they announced that they will be once again signing with them. This is a huge move, in my opinion, for the team to bring Tony Kanaan on. Tony Kanaan, of course, won the 2013 Indy 500. Granted, I would have rather had Kyle Busch drive the car, but if you're going to bring someone on the team who has that experience, because they were wanting experience, Zach Brown was, I think he's a guy who really can bring that it factor and that Hollywood factor onto the team and into the organization. I think this is a very solid chance. And I think Tony Kanaan honestly could win the Indy 500. And I think Aaron McLaren SP has become a bigger threat than I think a lot of people realize this year. They have now 4 of the top 5 finishers from the 2022 Indy 500. You of course are going to have Alexander Rossi joining the team driving a 7. You got Felix Rosenqvist, who probably should have almost won this race earlier this year. Pat O'Ward was really strong, and Tony Kanaan, who finished 3rd. I think his team has as much of a chance as anybody else to go out there and win, and I think they're going to have a good chance to get it done. Great decision, in my opinion, for Tony Kanaan to join, and it helps that there are more cars now joining Indy 500. For Aaron McLaren SP cars, very exciting and great to see that there are more cars racing Indy 500. Hopefully get more than 33 entries. We'll have to wait and see what happens. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Austin Hill. As a penalty report came out yesterday, and while there have been some talk, there might be some penalties coming for Austin Hill, there are no penalties for Austin Hill coming. Now, one of the things that, for those of you who did not watch the NASCAR Xfinity Series race, there was a video that surfaced in a pre-race for the Cup Series race of Austin Hill getting into a fight with Maya Sider on pit road. He kind of sucker punched him on pit road and fought him on pit road after contact on the racetrack. Personally, Wayne Auden is a guy who likes a lot of these fights, and he brings a lot of headlines into the sport as well. And NASCAR has never really fined or penalized anybody for fighting on pit road before, so it isn't a surprise that there are no penalties coming for Austin Hill. And honestly, I'm kind of happy they didn't penalize him. I thought they would, to be honest, but I'm very happy they're not penalizing Austin Hill for just fighting on pit road. Austin Hill's a big, bulky guy. And honestly, if Austin Hill finds it, if this doesn't work out, racing doesn't work out for him, though it seems like it is for him, I can honestly see Austin Hill going over to WWE or going to the UFC and fighting, because that dude's a big, tough guy. And you don't want to mess with Austin Hill. So honestly, I think it's great that there's no penalties coming for both Maya Sider and Austin Hill. I think they both agree that probably there doesn't need to be any penalties coming. And honestly, great there's no penalties coming for Austin Hill. Great decision, and happy to see for sure, in my opinion. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Martinsville TV ratings from this past weekend. Now, according to Adam Stern, NBC earned a 1.52 rating and 2.541 million viewers at Martinsville. That is down for a 1.61 rating and 2.627 million from last year. Slightly numbers down, not a major shock, and it surprised me the numbers are down just a little bit, but we'll talk about where I think next week is going to be. I think next week the ratings are going to be the highest they've been for a championship race in a very, very long time. And here is why. We'll be talking about here in a little bit how big the story we'll talk about here in just a little bit has become. I think Phoenix's TV ratings are probably going to be going through the roof just a little bit here next weekend. But I'm not surprised ratings are down just a little bit for this race, just because, again, I think the ratings have kind of gone down. You did have the F1 race going on as well, which a lot of people tuned in that, though I will say the numbers for that were a little bit down as well for that particular race. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but honestly, ratings are not too bad. They're not great. I wish you want, of course, you do want TV ratings to be up more than they were the previous time, but it's good to see at least the ratings were not down by much, and it's very exciting to see. It's not great to see, but it's good to see at least that their ratings are not down. At least that's a positive step in the right direction. It's a good direction for sure to be in my opinion. And now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Hendrick Motorsports. As Nathan Solomon reported yesterday that Hendrick Motorsports will continue their Xfinity Series program heading into 2023 and will make more Xfinity Series starts with some of their Cup guys in 2023. Now, there have been a lot of rumors and rumblings that maybe they were not going to return to the Xfinity Series next year to make some one-off starts. But that is not the case, as they revealed that. Now, how many starts will Hendrick Motorsports make? I would think probably they'll make a few more starts next year, maybe around 7 to 8 starts in 2023. And one of the reasons I think is because I think all 4 drivers in the team are probably going to get at least 1 or 2 starts in those rides next season. I think it's great the Hendrick Motorsports Group is coming back. They did not win this year with that 17 car. And honestly, I think one of the goals is they wanted to win. If they had won this year, maybe like when they almost won at Darlington with Larson, I do think that they would have had a chance. Because, of course, they ran, I think, with 3 of their drivers. They ran with William Byron. They ran Kyle Larson. And, of course, they ran with Alex Bowman, who, by the way, is back this weekend in the 48 car. I think it's really exciting to see that Hendrick Motorsports will continue running their Xfinity Series program in 2023. I think it's a really good decision. Again, they're going to run a few more races in Xfinity, it looks like, which I think is really exciting to see, and I'm very happy to see that the Hendrick Motorsports Xfinity Series program will continue heading into next season. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Garrett Smithley. As it was announced on Tuesday that Garrett Smithley will drive the 78 for Busch Club Motorsports full-time in 2023. This isn't a major shock. Garrett Smithley has been rumbled and rumored to maybe be going to this ride. We didn't know what his plans were. He kind of teased that he had some plans to announce for next year, but he didn't know that would be a full-time opportunity. I think Garrett Smithley does get the best out of his equipment. I don't think Garrett Smithley is the greatest talent in the world, let's be honest, but he does get the best out of his equipment every time he's behind the wheel. And I think this is a great decision for the team to bring him on full-time. Now, of course, the team has kind of regressed this a little bit so far in 2022, but I think bringing Garrett that onto the team, that experience that he has, makes a lot of sense in my opinion. So I am excited to see that Garrett, again, is getting an opportunity. I think the goal for the 78 car is, one, try to make every single race this season. That's going to be the number one goal. But number two, I think the other goal for him is to basically try to go ahead and try to get that experience. So it's very exciting to see for sure that Garrett Smithley is getting the opportunity to continue driving the 78 for BG McLeod Motorsports next year. The goal is to try to finish in the top 20 points, and it's great to see that we're going to see Garrett Smithley back behind the wheel of a 78 car. Really exciting to see and glad to see he'll be driving the 78 for BG McLeod Motorsports in 2023. Now we're going to head on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Harrison Burton. As Bob Cox reported yesterday, responding to a fan, that Harrison Burton will be staying at Wood Brothers in 2023 as he has a multi-year deal with the organization. This is something that I've known for a little bit, but this has officially been confirmed by Bob himself that he will be returning to Wood Brothers in 2023. I think this is a really good decision for the team. I know that his rookie year has not been fantastic, but I do feel like the Harrison Burton, as the year has progressed, I do feel like the Harrison Burton has gotten a lot better as a driver. His average finish has gone down way much, and he's been doing a lot better as a driver. And I think in 2023, he's going to continue to improve. I think the goal for 2023 is to try to finish in the top 25 in points, or try to finish around top 20 points. That'd be a really good goal and huge gains for the team. Obviously, I think Harrison Burton wants to win races, and I think that's a goal for him in the long-term future, but he is a project, and he's a young driver. He's only 22 years old, so he's got a lot of time to progress to head toward that nature. I think Harrison Burton's got a lot of potential to keep doing good things, and again, this year, like I said, has been a little bit of down year. I did expect more from Harrison as a rookie, but then again, when you're in a Wood Brothers car, that probably isn't the best equipment. I know it's still a Team Penske branded car, but when you're a rookie that doesn't have a lot of experience in a next-gen era, I think it's the best time to learn the car, and the more experience he's gotten, the better I think he's gotten. He's gotten a few top 10s this year so far and was pretty good at Martinsville, so he's definitely shown a lot more progression and a lot more progress as a race car driver. I think Harrison is going to continue to improve, and I'm very excited to see that Harrison Burton will be returning to Wood Brothers in 2023. I think it's a fantastic decision. Great to see that he'll be back behind the wheel of the 21 car in 2023. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Tyler Reddick. Now on Monday afternoon, Tyler Reddick had a lot of interviews coming up, and he actually provided a health update. Now, for those who did not watch the NASCAR Cup Series race on Sunday, Tyler Reddick was actually running, I believe, around 20th or 30th position, and Tyler Reddick got hit into the rear of the car, and he went off the racetrack. Now, he basically went off the racetrack. He started complaining that his head was hurting. He got hugged by Richard Childress, and basically he went to the infield care center. They said he passed his neurological evaluation. He did say yesterday or 2 days ago, he did say to the basically talking to media that he plans to basically go out there and try to basically but basically try to get one more checkup, and we won't know if he's cleared or not to race. Obviously, a lot of people think it's due to the crash at Homestead, and basically he suffered a pretty hard wreck at Homestead on the front of the car, not the rear of the car, but he said he suffered a hit right there, but he felt fine, and then all of a sudden the hit at Martinsville to the rear of the car caused him maybe have concussion-like symptoms. So there is a potential chance and a potential opportunity that Tyler Reddick basically will not be basically racing, this weekend. We don't know exactly yet, but he has not confirmed that. Now, if I'm in Tyler Reddick's position personally, I'm not racing this weekend at Phoenix. I'm not going to race this weekend. And the reason being is I want to take care of my health. Now, if Reddick is cleared to race this weekend, he will race. But I think that there is a chance that Reddick may not race this weekend just because of the health. And honestly, if I'm in Reddick's position, especially with concussion-like symptoms, I don't want to honestly risk that injury, if that makes any sense. So I think there is a good chance and a good possibility we're not going to see Tyler Reddick drive the A car this weekend, which would be unfortunate. But if he doesn't drive the A car, who will drive the A car next season? This weekend. Honestly, it probably will be Austin Hill since he's not suspended, and Austin Hill has been driving for Rich Schultz races this year. I think that he will be driving the A car this weekend if Reddick is not cleared. Now, if Reddick is medically cleared the race and he sides the race this weekend, he will drive that A car and probably will be really successful in the weekend because the A car was really fast in the spring and will be up there probably contending with the championship for. And if he's got the fastest car, I think he'll try to go out the bang and get that 4th victory. Reddick, though, I think there's a chance he won't race this weekend. We don't know if he will race or not. I do hope that Reddick does race this weekend, but I think for his health and safety, honestly, if it is decided that he can't race this weekend, I think it'd be a great decision if he decided to stay out. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but it sounds like we don't know yet if he will be cleared to race. We're going to probably know here in the next day or two, probably by tomorrow when you're hearing this. We'll probably talk about it probably on Thursday or Friday when it does get officially revealed. We don't know yet, though, if he's medically cleared to race, but we'll have to wait and see what happens if he decides to get medically cleared to race. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Dale Jr. Along with the major announcement with Bass Pro Shops, Dale Jr. has officially revealed that he'll not be only racing in one Xfinity Series race, but he'll be racing in 2 Xfinity Series races in 2023. One of those will be sponsored by the number 88 Bass Pro Shops car, and the other one will be sponsored by Hellmann's. The 2 races that he's planning to run, according to Dustin Albino, those races are being planned to be run in the NBC portion of the season. Now, it's unclear which 2 races he's going to run. Now, I think the 2 races that Dale Jr. is going to run, the first one I think is going to be Bristol. Dale Jr. has indicated in the past he wants to run at Bristol once again. It's one of his favorite tracks to run at. Not Bristol Dirt, but run at the main Bristol. The other race, I think, is going to be Martinsville. He tends to run Martinsville, and Hellmann's likes to race in that portion of the country and basically in the southeastern portion of the United States. So he's probably going to end up racing in Virginia, probably racing at Martinsville and Ridgeway, Virginia next year. Dale Jr., I think, will also be very competitive. I think he ended up finishing in the top 10 in the spring race earlier this year, so I think the 88 car will be a lot faster as well when he does get it. But it's also what's really great to see is the fact that Dale Jr. is increasing his Xfinity Series schedule, and it's great to see that Dale Jr. is doing more racing. He's been a driver that has shown a lot of pace and a lot of success for sure. He's done a really, in my opinion, he has done a very solid job this year, doing a really good job, in my opinion, commentating this year. But not only that as well, you think about what Dale Jr. has done behind the wheel. He's won a lot of Xfinity Series races. He's got a chance to win an Owners' Championship this year. And it's very exciting to see that Dale Jr. is going to run a few Xfinity Series races next year. We're going to talk a little bit more Dale Jr. here in just a little bit. But Dale Jr. has been a driver that has been extremely successful, won Xfinity Series titles, won a lot of Cup races, and I think it's great that he's going to race once again. That 88 car, by the way, that he's going to be running, the Bass Pro Shops car, is one of my favorite paint schemes for 2023. Probably my favorite paint scheme overall of all the paint schemes revealed so far for 2023. That is my favorite one I've seen so far. There's probably going to be a lot of other 2023 paint schemes that are going to be revealed that I think are going to end up being really, really good and really cool to see. But I think it's phenomenal. Dale Jr. is going to run a couple Xfinity Series races. Amazing to see for sure. Very great to see. And I'm happy to see that we are going to see Dale Jr. racing and some more Xfinity Series races in 2023. Really excited to see for sure, in my opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Ross Chastain. Now, we've got a couple of stories around Ross Chastain upcoming here in this episode, but Ross Chastain has been probably the biggest talking point in story over the last couple days. And the big reason is because of the incredible wall ride move that he made, which is probably the greatest move in NASCAR history. Ross Chastain basically ran the outside wall he needed to get in the championship for, and it was 4 points down, I think 2 or 4 points down on Denny Hamlin. On the last lap of the race, he decided to wall ride coming to the checker flag and wall rode from 10th to 5th, had the fastest lap in Cup Series history at Martinsville, had like an 18.8 second lap, which is 2 seconds faster than Chris Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson was, and got up there and made the championship four. Many drivers ended up reacting in the Cup Series. Phil Kyle Larson said that was an embarrassing move for the sport, which I disagree. He says he's embarrassed that he tried it. And I think Kyle Larson, honestly, is a little more embarrassed because he tried it and ended up failing, while Chastain's move ended up succeeding. Joe Logano said that move was really cool, but he thought probably should end up being banned, which I disagree with him on that. But other drivers in other sports basically reacted to the move. Daniel Ricciardo called it hero shit. Fernando Alonso said that was the best thing he's seen in racing in 2022. Karun Shandok reacted, said probably think the best thing he's ever seen. Max Pappas reacted to the move. Kevin Harvick called that move a really, really awesome move. Many drivers in different other forms of NASCAR and racing reacted to it. It's also gotten a lot of reactions from a lot of people who don't talk about NASCAR. Barstool Sports, they kind of got the facts wrong on the story, but they saw that move and were really, really impressed with that. Pat McAfee, who mainly does NFL and, of course, works in WWE, he's a wrestler in WWE, he talked about the move and called it one of the best things he's ever seen. Many people in different industries and respects showed a lot of respect. Now, Ross Chastain also in the last few days has gained like 6,000 or 7,000 followers on Twitter and gained a lot of followers and gained a lot of traction. It's been great to see Ross Chastain, a driver who's come from nothing, be able to gain that traction as well. And they're also selling t-shirts as well for the move. They basically said that was a great move, so they're selling it, calling, I think, the Hail Melon on the t-shirt. And in fact, the move has been probably the most viral move in NASCAR history. The move has gotten at least 50 million views, and last time I checked, it's gotten over 110 million views or something like that, which is the most viral moment in NASCAR history. Ross Chastain move has been basically praised by Larry McReynolds as well, saying if they ban this move, it's a really, really bad look for the sport, which I 100% agree with Larry McReynolds on that aspect. This is one of the greatest things I've ever seen as a fan. And like I said, I've been watching for 15 years, and that video game move is something you see in video games. I've seen drivers try the wall ride move like Carl Edwards 2008 and Kyle Larson last year and ended up failing. Ross Chastain's move was absolutely incredible. It's had a huge impact for the sport in a really, really positive way. It's been fantastic to watch all the reactions from people in the industry, and I think it's going to be huge for the sport, and I think it will help with ratings this weekend as well. I think there's a big reason why. I think it will help with ratings, and I think it's really huge for the sport and a great thing to see for sure. Really exciting for the future of NASCAR, and I cannot wait to see what's next, and I think we're going to be riding momentum from the end of the year into 2023 as well, which can be great promotion for the sport going next year. And it's off of a racing move. It's not off some BS like some retaliation on racetrack we'll have with Bubba Wallace. It's happening because of good things, and it's amazing to see for sure in NASCAR. And now we're going to head jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about Ty Gibbs. Now, one thing that kind of got brought out of the shadow, something that wasn't really talked about after the whole Ross Chastain move, was the Ty Gibbs move. On the last lap of the race in the NASCAR Xfinity Series race, Ty Gibbs dumped his teammate Brandon Jones. And a lot of drivers in the industry and people inside the industry were very unhappy with Ty Gibbs, including Todd Bodine. Kevin Harvick was very unhappy. I think Kevin Harvick got mad about the move too. I saw Kyle Larson say it was very, very embarrassing. I saw Kyle Busch, I think, say something. Denny Hamlin said, I miss JD Gibbs. And many people in other industries reacted to the move as well, including former drivers. And now Joe Gibbs has actually reacted to the move, and Joe Gibbs says that consequences are coming for Ty Gibbs. And Dale Jr. also was speaking to media yesterday, and TobyChristie.com reported that Dale Jr. would be very mad if his driver did that. He wouldn't sit his driver after they were racing for a championship, but he would be very, very mad about the move, which I 100% agree with Dale Jr. Now, Joe Gibbs says consequences are coming. Now, we don't know what consequences are coming for Ty Gibbs, but it should be, in my opinion, that he should be maybe racing in the Cup race. I don't know at this point, but there should be some consequences coming. And honestly, I think he should get a penalty, get fined by the team themselves, and lose a lot of money. Now, let's talk about Ty Gibbs a little bit. I like Ty Gibbs a lot. I think Ty Gibbs is a very talented driver. But Ty Gibbs has also shown this year a lot of arrogance on the racetrack and races sometimes with his head so far up his ass and can race like a jackass from time to time. Granted, like I said, I like him. He's a great talent and a great driver who can probably win a lot of races. Very talented. The problem with Ty Gibbs, like I said, he's very arrogant and races with his head up his butt. And then on Sirius and NASCAR Radio, he compared himself to freaking Jesus. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, seriously. Ty Gibbs is going to have a very rude awakening going into Cup next year because whether you like it or not, he's going to be the 18 car. I personally think he shouldn't be in the 18 car next year just because of the fact that the way he races. He shouldn't be in the 18 car next year. He's not proven it. He's not been cutting. And personally, he hasn't done great in Cup this year either in the select starts. His average finish in the 15 races he ran is 23.2. So he's struggled in the Cup Series in a 23 car. Granted, he's probably not getting the best equipment in there. But I think Ty Gibbs is under pressure. And I thought we were seeing a big growth in maturity, but then we see what happened in Texas between him and Ty Dillon. Eric Jones was not happy with the move. And a lot of drivers in Cup do not like Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs has got some consequence coming. And honestly, I think he might get taken out by Brandon Jones. And Brandon Jones, of course, will be going to Junior Motorsports. Maybe Joe Gibbs will give him a really bad car, so he isn't going up against Ty Gibbs. But I think you're going to see Brandon Jones do something to Ty Gibbs. I don't think Ty Gibbs is winning the championship. I think he's going to learn the hard way that if you race like this all the time, you're not going to win a championship in Cup, and you're not going to win a championship anywhere. There has to be consequences sent to Ty Gibbs, and I hope those consequences get delivered to him because he deserves consequences for what he did on the track. Again, and not to mention, he wrecked his own teammate who needed to make championship for. Ty was already locked in on points, so why dump your teammate? I don't get it and don't understand. But honestly, I'm not shocked and surprised that this kind of stuff happened, and really not surprising to see. Hopefully, whatever consequences they are, they do penalize him. Ty Gibbs can't race in this because he's been spoiled. Let's be honest. He's a good talent, but he's been spoiled. He's done a lot of stupid shit this year, and it's been very frustrating to see. So hopefully there are some consequences coming for Ty Gibbs here in the future. We'll see what Joe Gibbs decides to do. I don't know if they'll do anything, but we'll have to wait and see what happens if they do decide to go ahead and decide themselves to penalize Ty Gibbs. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the first of two major stories in today's episode, as we're going to talk about Joe Gibbs and Kyle Busch. Yesterday as well, after speaking about Ty Gibbs, Joe Gibbs spoke about Kyle Busch. He was asked a question about this being a last race for Kyle Busch. Joe Gibbs says it is probably going to be really emotional at Phoenix for him there. He also said that they actually tried to keep Kyle Busch. Now, I'll say this when it comes to this situation. I do think at the beginning, when it came to situation, because of course Kyle Busch will not be returning to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2023, as he'll be going over to drive for Rich Schultz Racing next year in the A car. And it's been publicly known that Kyle Busch has been really frustrated with Joe Gibbs Racing. He made a couple tweets that he ended up liking, and basically also in race for the championship, we saw Kyle Busch basically say that they was there for 15 years, all the stupid Kyle Busch stuff that ended up happening, and then they said, click. It was gone. And then Kyle Busch has basically already gotten sponsors willing to work with him, and also social media can always be negative, but it was a negative situation with sponsorship. So sponsorship was not the problem. So it seems like to me that I'm going to call a little bit cap on Joe Gibbs here. Granted, I will say they probably at the beginning, when they had the Oracle sponsorship, they probably tried to keep him. But I think things changed for a couple reasons. One, Mark Truex Jr., we all thought was going to be leaving at the end of this year. Remember back in June, it was rumored that he was going to be one that was going to be leaving Joe Gibbs Racing because he was going to be retiring. But Mark Truex Jr. confirmed at Nashville that basically he was going to be returning to the team. So I think that's the first big domino. Second big domino is when Oracle fell through. Joe Gibbs Racing actually had sponsorship with Oracle, which of course they sponsor Red Bull currently at the moment. But that sponsorship got dropped. Is going to be huge money and huge sponsorship, and they basically went ahead and dropped. And I think after that happened, I think that's when the dominoes really started beginning to crack, and the cracks started showing. And the last few weeks before the announcement happened that Kyle Busch was going to be going to Rich Schultz Racing, I think that's when they decided to stop talking to Kyle Busch. There's a lot of teams in the running. Joe Gibbs was in the running at the time, but then eventually it went over to 2311 Racing. Then Rich Schultz Racing became a favorite, and then of course other teams like Stewart-Haas Racing that was in the cards as potential candidacy to become working with Kyle Busch. I think Kyle Busch is not going to have a great race at Phoenix. Kyle Busch obviously doesn't really care. He says it's not going to be emotional, but he thanks for all support 15 years. But it's just frustrating to see how this all has kind of gone down. There's a lot of bad blood boiling. And honestly, I think Joe Gibbs Racing is going to have a very difficult time next year because we already know it's going to be taking 18 next year. It's going to be Ty Gibbs. We already talked about Ty Gibbs here just a little bit ago and the frustration we've seen from a lot of people on that. Honestly, I think that Joe Gibbs Racing in general, they're going to have a rude awakening coming in next year, and I think in the next 2 years. And in the future, if I'm Mark Truex, if I want to stay in Cup, just leave Joe Gibbs Racing. Because I think Joe Gibbs Racing in the future is not going to be the destination. And I think that Joe Gibbs Racing, in my opinion, they are going to regret the situation of losing Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch has been probably one of the biggest assets Joe Gibbs Racing has ever had. Kyle Busch won 60 races with the like 60-something races, including exhibition race for the team, won a Coke 600, won 2 Brickyard 400s, and won a lot of races and 2 Cup championships for the team and brought the 18 car back to success. Now, transitioning over to Rich Schultz Racing, which we'll talk about that in a video tomorrow, like I mentioned. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I think Kyle Busch is going to do big things for Rich Schultz Racing in the long-term future. I'm excited to see what Kyle Busch can do. I know things are not ending on a great note at Joe Gibbs Racing, and you look at the performance in Martinsville, too. That performance in Martinsville was sabotage. I wonder if Kyle Busch honestly wasn't forming on purpose, because I think he's done with Joe Gibbs. I think everyone quit on each other, and I think they're completely done. I think after the race for championship stuff kind of surfaced, I think they just kind of quit on in general, and I think that's the end, and this will be, of course, the last race that Kyle Busch is racing for Joe Gibbs Racing this upcoming weekend at Phoenix is the final race for Kyle Busch at Joe Gibbs Racing. But it's interesting, they tried to keep Kyle Busch, comparing the fact that a lot of people didn't think that they tried to keep him. Let's be for real. I don't think Joe Gibbs at the end tried to keep Kyle Busch. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the final major story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Ross Chastain's wall riding move. NASCAR basically said to the media after the move that happened, because we already talked about Chastain's move, where he basically wall rode all the way to get into the championship four. NASCAR, as of now, is not planning to ban wall riding. Steve O'Donnell basically went on SiriusXM NASCAR radio yesterday and says, "We've basically seen similar attempts, but never successfully. Was never successful. No indications as of now of outlawing, especially with it being 35 races into the season. They are not planning to ban the wall riding move as of now. There actually have been some indication and some rumors that they were looking maybe to do that because drivers are really frustrated. But NASCAR, with how much publicity they've gotten, they're not going to ban it. And honestly, I think it's a great decision that they're not going to be banning the wall riding move. And here's why. This has been probably the biggest move in NASCAR history to happen when you look at the move. And this is this generation's 1979 Daytona 500. And this moment can transcend NASCAR history. This could be a moment that makes NASCAR relevant once again. So you don't want to ban the wall riding move. Now, is there a possibility that we can see this move happen at Phoenix? It is very possible, but I think it's going to be a lot harder to do it at Phoenix than basically do it in Martinsville, because you have to look at how Phoenix is structured. Going into turn number 3, you have to go really, really wide up the track to get a run. So it's probably going to be impossible for you to get up there and get that run, because you're probably actually going to lose time instead of gain time. But also, the same token, there's a reason the drivers are frustrated because they think that it could be a very dangerous move, and that is a good point. It could be a dangerous move, because if Chastain hits that gate on turn number 4, there is a possibility he could get really injured. But he hit it at the right angle and right time. And honestly, I think drivers themselves is a self-policing move. Could we see that happen in Martinsville next year? Yes, absolutely. I think that this move could end up happening at Martinsville next season. It's a very, very possible that it could end up happening and cause potential problems. But I think as of now, don't ban the move, especially with it. Now, I think in the future, they could, maybe like in 2023 or 2024, it is very possible. But as of now, I think it's a fantastic decision not to remove it. I think especially for the sport, because I know Larson said it was an embarrassing move. I personally think it was an embarrassing move. I think it was a Game 7 moment. And one thing, though, to note about this is, unfortunately, the playoffs are not going anywhere with this move, especially after how much success and how much NASCAR is gaining traction. If there's any conversations about removing the playoffs, that is gone completely out the window, by the way. But going back to the move, I know that there's some moves that drivers frown upon. I think it's going to be a self-policing move. I think the drivers know that that move doesn't happen with anybody else. Ross Chastain is a grits-to-grits driver, and the move that he made was absolutely a huge moment for the sport. We're still getting talked about 3 days later, and everyone is still talking about this move. More people are talking about the move that happened on Sunday, on Wednesday, than are talking about the championship race. And not only that, I think NASCAR is going to grow from this. And what NASCAR needs to do with this move is they need to promote this move for not only this weekend, but need to keep promoting it, because I think this could be a move that transcends the sports long term. It's amazing, though, they're not banning the move, by the way. I'm very happy that they're not banning it. Don't get me wrong. But I think it's a great decision to not remove the move. And honestly, I think it's fantastic that we've got a move that is being talked about in a much more positive way than a negative way. And honestly, I think with how much positivity the sport has, at least, I know the Ty Gibbs stuff happened and the rumors of riding, maybe not racing, are not great for the sport. But honestly, with this move for Ross Chastain, it is a fantastic decision to not remove the wall riding move. I'm glad they're not banning it, and it's a fantastic thing to see, in my opinion. So, that is for today's long NASCAR and motorsports video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on, to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, as for me on Patreon as well. Link description below over that, and comment below your thoughts on today's video. Do you think it's a good decision not being wall riding or not? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about the whole situation with Joe Gibbs Racing said they tried to keep Kyle Busch? Let me know in the comments below. Tomorrow on my channel, we're going to have that Kyle Busch and Richard Childress Racing video dropping. On Friday, we may have 2 videos dropping. I think we'll have a NASCAR news video dropping. We'll have to wait and see. And then later that evening, we will have the championship reaction to trucks. Saturday, we'll have the Xfinity Series reaction. And Sunday, we'll have the Cup reaction dropping. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode. And I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.